I am mining investor and editor of Resource Stock Digest, fresh from the Bamboo Lounge, Mr. Gerardo Del Real, here with my partner, Mr. Nick Hodge, who's also an investor and publisher of Daily Profit Cycle. This is the 246th episode of our weekly therapy session that we like to call Investing in Bizarro World, or is it turning out to be just living in 2023? We're going to talk markets. We're going to talk gold. We're going to talk uranium. We'll talk Kissinger and Munger a tad bit. We'll get into some crypto and an exciting new service that Mr. Hodge and I will be offering you all. Before we get to all that, Mr. Hodge, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. We should have rehearsed and done the whole funny how bit. It would have been something nice. The comment section is getting interested. A couple of people have mentioned it to me, and I only take a little bit of offense to being called an extorter. You know, no one twists anybody's hand to subscribe to a newsletter, and I do have a more than a couple of scrolls worth of testimonials from people who have made, in some cases, significant amounts of money. So anyway, good to be here with you. Family is good. Thanksgiving was good. It's been a couple of weeks because we took off for Thanksgiving, and you were traveling the week before that. So how was your trip and travel? And it's good to be back.
Travel was fantastic. Took off on a birthday trip, had a birthday at the end of October. The wife surprised me with a trip to Costa Rica, just her, myself, and a few friends. That was phenomenal. As you know, we have our company party here next week, so we will be out of town. However, you will get your weekly podcast. We will make sure we record that before we leave, but I'm excited to catch up with everyone in person. And yeah, you know, the comments are funny on the extorting side of things. I would say this, folks, and I say this all the time. What you do with your checkbook is what you do with your checkbook. What I do with mine is what I do with mine. At the end of the day, I don't split my profits with you. You don't split your profits with me. You don't share in my losses, and I don't share in yours. So we all got to be big boys and girls and be accountable for the decisions that we make. And, you know, with that being said, look, 25% of on the Junior Resource Monthly side of that portfolio is making brand new 52-week highs, right? That's not bad considering the fact that there's also, you know, a Patriot in there, which is up several thousand percentage and several thousand percent, and has made life-changing money for a lot of people with a ton of room to run. So look, are there going to be losers? Absolutely. Is this, you know, the last year where there's losses? Absolutely not. But overall, I'm pretty damn proud of the portfolio performance and the ideas that we've been able to bring to you all. If it works, thank you. If it doesn't, there's a lot of other places you guys could be getting your information from, y'all. Like Dave Chappelle says, you tune in to us. We don't tune in to you. So, but the Bamboo Lounge comment was hilarious, by the way. It's one of my favorite scenes from Goodfellas. Martin Scorsese is my favorite director. And somebody made a comment that I just got back from the Bamboo Lounge after smashing a bottle over the manager's head. Of course, referencing Joe Pesci's classic scene in there. So good stuff. Keep them coming, y'all.
Yes.
All right.
Sure.
Well, listen,
Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Thank you for watching us. Let's get right into it. Been a couple of weeks. We talked gold the last time, how it was perfectly boring and technically beautiful. And all that's happened since then is, you know, we've had a decisive breach of that 2000 level. We're sitting at right around the 2030 level as we speak, touched as high as 2060. The dollar looks to be breaking down below now the 103 level, the dollar index. So how is it looking for you technically now, Nick? I know sentiment is starting to turn. Tax loss selling is finally behind us, or will be here by the time you all see and hear this. But the timing seems really good. Even some of the juniors are catching bids on this latest move. It seems like this one might stick. How does it look technically to you?
Everything you say is true. Would be nice if it closes the month above 2,000, which hasn't happened. And we'll know that a couple of hours before we record, after we record this podcast, but a couple of days before it comes out. I think it likely happens, considering, like you said, it's trading at 2030. So that's pretty important, the monthly close above the $2,000 level. And so you're in striking distance of all-time highs here now. We'll see if it has to digest some gains, but the monthly close could attract enough headlines and enough retail interest to propel you to that all-time high, which I believe is 2089. I was reading about it earlier. Am I correct? Off the top of your head, do you
I
know?
thought it was 2069, but I could be off.
It
Let's
says
take a look.
2089 intraday high in August 2020.
Intraday high, got it. I had the closing, which was I think 2063 or something
That's
like
what I
that.
wrote, so hopefully it's true. Anyway,
Yeah.
and you're really close to that, and I think you can get there, and then you would have a breakout, right? So the other thing I would say, as far as gold itself is concerned, is I've been saying all year that it's time to buy the dip in gold, and now it might be time to buy the breakout in gold, right? Because those dips have now gone right up to resistance a couple of times, right? Overhead resistance, and once you break out to an all-time high, I'm not the best technical analyst, but I do know that there's no resistance above an all-time high because prices have never been in that territory. So you also mentioned gold stocks, and they've been interesting as well. Some classic things are starting to happen. You've got, silver is starting to get a little anticipatory, right? It's often like leading breakouts, and some of the silver stocks have started to break out, at least marginal. Like we look at the chart of like Albert Plateau, for example.
Dolly Varden, which we highlighted a couple of weeks back when it was at the 60-cent level, up some 50% since that commentary at 90 cents now.
Right. And then on the GDXJ specifically, again, it's in my head because I was writing about it today, had recent resistance at $36 and has quickly found itself in the $37 range. So looking like it wants to break out as well. Like that needs to confirm, and gold stocks have been disappointing, but some context is also warranted, right? Because if you pull back that GDXJ and gold chart all the way back to the last time gold made record highs in 2011, the GDXJ was up around like $120, for example, and today it's down at 37, while gold is at record highs. And so that's the disparity, right? You've had gold continuing to go up while gold stocks have gone down. And yes, they've shown a bit of life here recently, but there's a lot of money to be made as those two charts get reunited, I guess is what I'm saying. The gold price that's gone up and the gold stocks that have gone down. So bullish on gold for sure, and recommending an Explorer this week in Hodge Family Office. So that's why I was writing about gold. And I think it's going to have a good 2024. And look, there's a lot of stocks, as I just said, that are still cheap. So I believe December is a good time to buy, as you can use and the general end of year tax loss selling period to pick off what I've been telling you are, companies that have all the things, right? The catalysts, the money, the management, the jurisdiction. And you don't have to mess with a lot of these companies that don't have those things.
Couldn't agree more. Another sector that's breaking out that has, performed on the equity side of it is the uranium space, right? I touched on 25% and all of the uranium portfolio being, at or near triple-digit gains for us. Here in 2023, we positioned well during the boring period. I'm hoping that some of you are catching this trend of getting ahead when no one's watching, when it's not sexy, when it's not fun, when there's not, market chasing every single day, buying quality names, waiting for the momentum and the trend to become your friend, and then, capturing the bulk of those early gains that most speculators miss. You can only do that by being a contrarian, and you can only be a contrarian by doing what most people are not. So I say all that to say that, uranium is probably in the bottom of the third inning. If we're talking baseball parlance, as far as the bull market goes, there's a lot of room left. But man, if you've been sitting watching the whole year, you've missed triple-digit gains across the board. And so thoughts on the uranium space? I know we hit a 16-year high last couple of days, touched the $81, $82 level the last that I checked. How's that looking technically for you, Nick?
I mean, uranium looks good, not just technically, but fundamentally. I mean, you've had now a breakout of the uranium price. You have the fundamentals still all lining up. You have continued announcements from new nations that are wanting to build out their nuclear reactors. You're having partnerships with SMR companies, small modular reactor companies, partnering with miners, including UEC, which was announced last week. By the time you see this, looking to secure supply for the build out of modular reactors. Terra Power, I'm talking about, which by the way is backed by partially by Bill Gates. And so you're getting to this phase of the cycle where nuclear now is becoming accepted. It was a contrarian play And then, it's working its way more into the mainstream. The last time you and I were together, we were talking about how more mainstream money was coming into the uranium sector. And I think that's only going to continue. It's one of the few places that's worked not only in the resource space of late, but also in the broader market. And so you're in that sort of that, you mentioned the third inning, right? And we just talked about gold. So I guess one of the things I was thinking about earlier was like just this week, nothing I would put in a newsletter, but uranium had a little bit of a pullback over the past couple of days heading into the end of November. And gold was flying, right? Gold was strong, well over 2,000. Like I sold a tiny, tiny bit of gold last week, when you watch this, and bought uranium, right? Like added to my uranium position because it was pulling back. And so you're in a place now where you have a couple of things that are working, at least in the nexus of things that you and I tend to care about, right? Gold and uranium. So you can have a little bit of fun. You can rotate. You can sell some of what's working one day and buy some of what's, not working or down the next day. But overall, both those complexes, gold, the metal, of course, and uranium stocks are bullish. So technical levels are, I don't want to say out of the window for the spot price. I mean, you've broken out, right? You just said 16-year high. You came to that place where not all-time highs, of course, but the overhead resistance now is much higher than any price we've seen in the past decade. So I think these companies are going to start having fun. They're starting to turn production back on. Another company we've been involved with, Encore, made that announcement last week saying they've turned on their assets in South Texas. And so you are inside of it, right? That thing you anticipated for so long is like now happening. And I guess if there's, one piece of advice, it's just to be aware of that, right? And I guess that's it. Know that trees don't grow to the sky, and just be cognizant of what's going on a day-to-day basis.
Agreed. Well said. Got to talk Bitcoin a bit. Got to break out in Bitcoin, right? Touch the 38,000 level. Seems to be primed to go higher. I am no crypto expert. However, we do have an in-house resident crypto expert that I believes we see much higher prices. I will leave it to him and his service and his subscribers to not give the target and then the timing of that. But I know he's bullish. I will say that much. How are you feeling about the crypto space, Mr. Hodge?
Well,
and Bitcoin specifically, right?
I guess let me first talk about him. So he is bullish, and we'll have to get him on here in the next couple of weeks, which we will do to talk about it. Bitcoin looks good. Also returning now to bullish, right? With also catalysts ahead. So you've got a Bitcoin ETF that's going to be approved likely in the new year. There's several of them that are awaiting approval, and then you've got the halving that's going to happen in the spring of 2024. So all these catalysts are coming. It has some of the same tailwinds as gold. You're getting people interested in it on other continents, right? You had the presidential upset win in Argentina, where he's talking about dollarization and bringing light to alternative currencies and just Forex in general, I guess I would say. And so
shutting down its central bank.
Right. Exactly.
I like that move.
Right?
I like that move. Yeah.
And, Argentinian stocks are up since his election. How do you say his last name?
Oh God, you're gonna
Milei.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Milei.
The Argentinian stocks are up across the board like 20% if you look at an Argentina ETF, and so that doesn't really relate to Bitcoin. But we will get Chris on here, and Bitcoin is bullish, and again, he's got the $1 Million Crypto Club, which people have been subscribing to, and we've gotten good feedback from. And it's not just Bitcoin, I guess, is the other thing I would say. And it's also not just Chris. So over at Profit Cycle Pro, John Carl's been writing a little bit about crypto. He's been doing some investment videos, one of which was with Chris about the crypto complex, and has been mentioning a couple of different projects or coins. And Solana's been doing quite well as well. So if you're not ready to go all in on trading, following a real live portfolio with Chris, we do offer some, I won't say rudimentary, but I will say more elementary things in Profit Cycle Pro that you can get involved in the a crypto space as well. So we'll have both those guys on in the next couple of weeks, hopefully before the end of the year.
Now, remember, you don't have to digest the free information and you don't have to subscribe to any of the paid services. It's completely voluntary. Nobody's extorting you for your couple of $100 or a couple of $1,000 or whatever it is that you decide to subscribe for. But I will say this, jokes aside, if you do choose to subscribe, there's some excellent services over there. And I'm talking my book because Nick and I co-own the company, but there's some really good information. And again, if you just want to peruse some of the free stuff, go to dailyprofitcycle.com. I'm supposed to remind you every week to go to dailyprofitcycle.com/subscribe to get all of the reports, the insights, the editorials, and thoughts from not just Mr. Hodge and myself, but our talented group of editors and experts on all things money. So all that is free. It's on the house. Money back guarantee.
Like it.
All
Might as well
right.
keep going with the promotion. Tell them about private placement intel.
No, look, Nick and I are excited. As you know, Nick and I have been in, the space and in some shape, form, or capacity for, God, coming up on 2 decades now, right? I think I'm running on like 15 years. And Nick, I know you've been around for, how long have you been allocating capital and writing about solar roads and all of the things that you did when you first got going?
Years, so in 2007, I started in.
Excellent. And so look, along the way, we've been fortunate enough to develop, a network of investors and high net worth groups that finance a lot of the deals that you see in the public markets, and oftentimes they do this, at very early stages where only a select handful of individuals are able to participate. And, we've been fortunate enough to get involved with a lot of great companies very early on. And that's really, the kind of the bread and butter. We love the publishing business. We love Resource Stock Digest, but at the end of the day, the bulk of our capital is coming from the checks that we're writing and the risks that we're taking in the market. So I say all that to say that private placements and the benefits that come along with investing early with a group that's well connected, that is, well thought of, and then that has good credibility has been so valuable for us. And it's great now to be, a part of a group that can extend our network and offer it to subscribers. And so Nick and I will be launching our new accredited investor service where we merge his network and my network, which often intersects, but sometimes diverges, and bring in all of the resources and the intellectual capital into that service to provide deal flow on everything from gold, copper, lithium, uranium stocks to biotech, crypto, AI, you name it, you're going to get, a pretty decent offering at what we think is one of the smartest ways, if you're an accredited investor, to make money in the markets. Getting in early, knowing what you're getting in to, and then having that leverage of a warrant or a half warrant that allows you a couple of years into the future to be able to secure future shares at a determined fixed price in a bull market that can do really, really, really well for you people.
Yeah, that was great. What else can I add? So, private placements have been the main tool that we both have used, I believe, to grow our net worth in recent years, including Gerardo recommending first Patriot battery metals at 16 cents and watching that grow to over $17 at one point. I was fortunate enough to get in an early biotech play that I got in at 10 cents, and it ultimately got itself on the NASDAQ and went to several dollars. And we've recommended a couple of other multi-baggers and 1,000% plus winners along the way. I was looking the other day, I love spreadsheets, Gerardo. And so I have one with a little line item for every check I've written, basically, since I started writing checks in the private placements. I've done over 100 deals since I think it was 2014 or 2015, I think it was. So that's a lot of pages also when you think about subscription documents. But anyway, and I also have a folder sitting in the closet behind me, like one of those file boxes that has a folder for, each of the ones with all the subscription documents. And so we have been at this for a while. And so, as we continue to write those checks and help support those deals and help tell their stories in some cases, it begets a broader network. And so we see more slide decks and we see more deals, and we get to vet them. And you mentioned the warrants. Yeah, obviously, gravy on top when you can, just like an option, have the risk but not the obligation to buy more of that stock if the price goes up, which we did get to do with Patriot Battery Metals, with Q2 Metals, and with many others along the way. I just said I've written over 100 checks. So my closed portfolio, by the way, for private placements is up over 88%. That's average per closed deal this year. We have an open portfolio as well. I was looking the other day; those open positions are up on average more than 100%. So the average open winner is more than a double, which is good work if you can get it. And we'll be combining forces. So we've been doing this individually, me in various capacities since 2015. And you more recently with Junior Resource Insider here under the Digest Publishing umbrella. But starting this week, literally this week, as you see this podcast, it will be under the brand of Private Placement Intel. And so I believe we'll have a new deal soon enough for those accredited investors to vet for themselves and see if it's appropriate for them and participate in if they want. And so we would encourage anyone who's interested in private placements to check that out. You can find it in many places. We have products pages on Resource Stock Digest, and on Daily Profit Cycle, and also on Digest Publishing. And we also bought the privateplacementintel.com. So you can type that in as well and check it out.
Well said. The deal that we'll be offering here in the next several days is a uranium deal. And it's a uranium deal with a company that has a history of success, that has a market cap somewhere right around the 13 and 15 million Canadian range. And it's one of those few uranium companies that hasn't participated to the upside during the recent run up, which has me excited because there is a half warrant that comes with that financing that I think is going to be very, very valuable here over the next several years, given the tailwinds that the uranium space has and how violent to the upside that specific sector can get. So yeah, if you're looking for a quality uranium deal, I think we got one. I think it'll be here in the next couple of days. And again, I mean, Nick and I look at stuff, I want to say probably every day. If it's not me, it's him. And if not, it's the both of us. So it just made all the sense in the world to bring all that to you under one umbrella as opposed to two different banners. And hopefully, if you're accredited, you are able to take advantage of that. Should be a fun close to the year and a heck of a 2024.
Beauty.
Right. Let's talk Panama. Panama just ordered First Quantum to close its Cobre copper mine. And if you want a quick lesson on jurisdictional importance, meaning where the assets that you allocate capital to are located and why it's important to have your finger on the pulse of that kind of thing, look at First Quantum's price the day that it was announced that the mine was going to be closing. And so, in the junior resource space with an explorer, we saw this recently with Q2, right? You could wake up and see your company down 40, 50% on news that was actually good news that I think people didn't take the time to read through it. And yeah, it was a long release, but the news was good news. I think when we get assays back and we see the grade on Q2, anybody that took advantage of that dip is going to be proven to be pretty wise. But I say that to say that with junior explorers, you expect that kind of volatility. We all know you can lose 70, 80, 90, all of your money. Company like First Quantum, this is a different ball game, and it's a different amount of capital destruction that happened there. So where this goes, I don't know. I'm definitely not an expert. I know that the Supreme Court just ruled that the mining contract was unconstitutional. Look, there were celebrities that were backing the closing of this mine. This mine, I believe, employs 40,000 people directly and indirectly. No word there on what's going to go on there. So I am a copper bull. I think in the midterm, copper in the next, couple of years, copper is going to get on a phenomenal run. I'm extremely, extremely leveraged to copper. I'm positioned well. I will continue to be aggressive with my largest copper, gold, silver holding. But countries matter, jurisdiction matters. Allocating capital in countries is challenging if you don't know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, you should seek out somebody that does, because that's a tough pill to swallow if you're, not just a hedge fund or, Grandma Smith, but also, the workers and the people that directly and indirectly have benefited from the economic stimulus that the mine has provided. So I don't think it's the last time we see this. And I think it's going to make, copper assets in stable jurisdictions that much more attractive and valuable here in the future.
But a lot of stuff there. Took some notes because I wanted to mention some things. I think I was the only bidder for your favorite copper, silver, gold junior on the U.S. side last week. So that's already paid off, and I'm happy to take those shares here at the end of the year. Leo DiCaprio is interesting. He's also a proponent of EVs. And so, this continues to, further that trope, or that, I don't know the appropriate word for it, just that juxtaposition, right, of the want to decarbonize and electrify and drive hybrids, but to want to shut down the mines where the very inputs come from that make those EVs and batteries and turbines and panels able to be made and manufactured. So there's a gap that has to close there in the want for the clean future and the very real need for the minerals to produce that clean future. And this is another example of that. It's also another example of why jurisdiction matters, right? Because there's similar cases recently in Mexico with its, mining law and concessions being ruled unconstitutional. So, I mean, this is foundational stuff. This wasn't a small mine, right? This was an operational copper mine that Franco-Nevada had royalties on, like the biggest royalty company in the world had done its due diligence on and had been in operation. And to just get cut off at the knee and say these concessions are unconstitutional is, some really foundational stuff that's going on, and can show you, and does show you, just how fast and even how in the settled and so-called, first world where legal precedent has been set, how fast that can change, right? So jurisdiction matters. You said that quality copper deposits in good jurisdictions are going to be really valuable. And I guess shout out to Brent Cook. I was listening to an interview the other day. He was talking about how, yes, jurisdiction matters, and yeah, there's good jurisdictions, but it's also by zip code, basically, because even in like a good jurisdiction. So he was saying, he knows of one copper project in Arizona that's going to get permitted, another one that's been in permitting for, I think, a decade that's probably not going to get approved. And so even in the same state of the union, right?
Yeah.
It's a difference in being able to get approved or not. So increasingly, environmental concerns matter. First Nations and Indigenous concerns matter, and it's something you have to deal with. And environmentalist concerns matter. It's just something you have to deal with in mining in this day and age.
Good to stay aware.
Sorry, just one more thing. It is a relatively dirty business and is working to get cleaned up, but to some extent, that's a function of, input costs and efficiency and top line, bottom line. I mean, you can't pay more for power and equipment than, it costs to get the stuff out of the ground. And, also people continue to die. I think it was 11 folks who died in a mine shaft in South Africa in the past couple of days. So, and obviously, feelings and thoughts and prayers out to their family. And, it's one of those industries that it has a bad name. Sometimes it's for a good reason, but nonetheless is obviously crucial and critical for this future that most everyone wants.
A lot of thoughts there. And my brain, Nick, it wanders, right? So it makes dumb connections because I have the sense of humor of a 12-year-old. So you mentioned the 11 people that tragically lost their life. Obviously, condolences there, and all the best energy to friends and loved ones. That's just a horrible, horrible situation. It took me to the fact that we lost two giants and on the national stage, right? On the global stage. One, somebody that professionally, at least, I absolutely looked up to, that being Mr. Charlie Munger, who passed away here in the past week, right? A lot of financial wisdom and a lot of just exceptional insight over the years. So long life, fully lived, obviously, but definitely a loss on that side of it. And then you have someone else because you mentioned death that, I was never fond of, and that being Henry Kissinger. And so I got to give a shout out to the hardtimes.net because they had probably the best headline, and it's, satirical, obviously, but the headline reads, Henry Kissinger dies of broken heart thanks to temporary ceasefire in Gaza.
Oh,
So kudos to the hardtimes.net. It was an absolutely brilliant, satirical, but accurate headline in the sense of, yes, the man was a strategist, a politician. He was many things, but he was also a war criminal and someone that salivated on the committing of those crimes and the deaths of millions. And, I put a thing on Twitter, not that anyone cares, but just because you die doesn't mean that you automatically get a pass on what you did while you were
sure.
here, right? And so I don't wish it on anyone, but look, he made it to 100, so there's something to be said for that there. But definitely two huge figures on the global stage that passed. And again, this is the stuff of fourth turnings when you have an Argentinian president-elect that says he's doing away with the central bank. That's a big deal, folks. That could set off, dominoes throughout Latin America that then spread and continue on if people start realizing we actually don't need central banks, right? Like they do more harm than good. When we talk about some of the other things going on around the world, when we talk about, Venezuela and Brazil and the potential conflict there, while simultaneously funding and helping, fight a war with Russia and the Ukraine, while also, everything going on in the Middle East. It's just a crazy, crazy, bizarro time out there. And yeah, that was my rant. That's where my brain went. It went all over the place with it. But yeah, yep. Anything to add
Yeah,
there?
no, it's a turning. I mean, the generational turning is real. And so you have a changing of the guard when these elder statesmen and pullers of the strings start to change guard and pass on, and a new generation comes up. So that's part of it. The jokes have been funny, but the pain and suffering was obviously real on the Kissinger front. There was a Twitter handle that was is Henry Kissinger dead yet? And every day it would say no, no, no. So that Twitter account finally had its day the other day when it got to tweet out, yes, is Henry Kissinger dead? I think it got tens of thousands of retweets and likes. And then on the Munger side, I can't say that I was a student of him either, and obviously he was a fantastic investor, contributed a lot, Warren Buffett's right-hand man. And so if there's one takeaway I have from him, it's, sort of to call it like you see it, which I like to think I do. That gentleman certainly spoke his mind and has plenty of quips and one-liners that I believe will live on for some time to come.
Yeah, and if there's one thing I really took away from his approach is how important patience is, right? And especially like where I dabble, my bread and butter is junior resource space. It's 99.9% of well, I shouldn't say that much. I would say 85% of my capital is allocated there. The other 15% is allocated to real estate. I always loved real estate. Started with that young. It's done well for me, and we'll continue to dabble there. But the one thing I really learned from him was the value of having patience and letting thesis play out, and having it be okay to be wrong initially if the market doesn't see what you see yet. And that can sometimes work against you. But, the great wealth that's been made globally typically hasn't been made by traders. It's been made by investors that actually make significant bets on a trend, catch it early when nobody's watching, and then let the thesis play out. And then obviously it takes some luck as well, right? A lot of hard work and a lot of luck. But that's probably my biggest takeaway from Mr. Munger is the patience. And if the thesis is still spot on and the market just doesn't see it yet, then maybe that's an opportunity, right?
I think he said the big money is made in the waiting.
That is correct. And that leads my brain into another segue, Patriot Battery Metals, which continues to be stuck between the $9 and $12 range, despite the fact that it's got a new discovery at CV9 and it already hit an intercept of 100 meters of spodumene-bearing pegmatite at CV9. We were talking about jurisdiction and the importance of having assets in stable jurisdictions that are attracting capital, where government is incentivizing the acceleration of permitting and is incentivizing capital coming into the country. Quebec checks all those boxes, and I believe that the permitting timelines are going to continue to shrink. I had a really good conversation that's on Resource Stock Digest with Blair Way, the CEO. You know, we chatted publicly for about 30 minutes. We talked about the discovery at CV9. I mean, look, the 3 drill holes have already returned continuous pegmatite intersections of 60 plus meters, including the one I referenced at 100 meters. And the last hole where they finally started to figure out the orientation of this thing, because the first few holes, you're just trying to get the geometry and trying to see which way you're going to chase it. The last hole had an 80-meter blowout near the end of it. So that gets me excited as all hell for the assays to come back, which I anticipate soon. And then I anticipate a lull over the holidays because no one wants to release assays over the holidays. And then I expect January to be a barn burner of a month. Will that translate into share price appreciation? I don't know yet, but I know we have the goods. I know that this thing is getting much, much bigger. I know that Blair's hell-bent on having 10 rigs there in January. And I know we have over 100 holes coming back from the labs between now and the resumption of drilling, and we're cash stopped. So again, broken record, if we have to wait a little bit longer for the real breakout to happen, I think when it happens, it's going to happen quickly. And look, technically it never filled that 823 gap. Is that what it was? Like, I know that's what you're looking at. But it's bounced beautifully and closed near $10 today. So, you know, hopefully we can break out soon. Trust me, I want shares to be higher as much as everyone else does. I clearly see the value. You know, again, not to poo-poo anyone else's asset, but there's assets that are, you know, on a fully valued basis are getting valuations 4 times Corvette's value, current market cap. And Corvette, there's only one, folks. I mean, you see companies keep putting results out, and the next Patriot never materializes, right? Because there is only one Corvette. And so, I encourage everybody that wants an update to go check out that interview. It's all there. We talk permitting, we talk approach to production, we talk drilling, we talk how aggressive they're going to be at the other CVs because there's a bunch. And no, I think the assays are going to be great. We know from sample results at CV9 that you're going to get some good grade out of that, right? The mineralization is going to be pretty predictable. Blair alluded as much in the interview. And yeah, starting out with 100-meter and 60-meter intercepts, if we're going to go a percent plus, heck of a way to start at a cluster that's 14 kilometers away from the main discovery, which, by the way, is still connecting on both sides and open at depth. So lots of like.
I believe all of that. I believe shares are going higher as well. And I also believe that they do have to close that gap before that share price appreciation. It can happen in a meaningful way. So I am a shareholder, obviously. I own enough shares to be happy, but I also have an order in to buy more at that gap because I do think it's going to fill, and would be more than content to own more at that price for all the things and all the reasons you just said.
Lots of like there. Mr. Hodge, anything else you want to touch on?
No, I don't think so. We're getting into the end of the year. There's some cheap resource speculations out there. Know your time frames and look at gold and uranium, obviously. Appreciate those around you. Hopefully you had a good Thanksgiving. Get those gifts ordered. The 25th will be here sooner than you think. And you just had a birthday. I will have a birthday while we're in Vegas celebrating with employees. So
at the Bamboo Lounge.
Around at the end of the year. There you go.
That's all we got this week, folks. I'm Gerardo Del Real along with Mr. Nick Hodge. This was the 246th episode of our weekly therapy session that we like to call Investing in Bizarro World. Be kind to each other. Be good to your neighbor. And keep it fun out there, everybody. Keep it light. Appreciate the comments. Keep them coming.
See ya.
Hey there, you independent-minded investor. If you like this video, make sure to tell us so by clicking the like button below. Subscribe to our channel so you never miss another one. And share it with everyone you know on social media. You can also click the link in the description below to check out more information-packed videos just like this one. Thanks for watching.